to this video on understanding data state. For the CISSP exam, you are certainly going to see question about different state of data, whether it is in use, in transit or at rest. So that what we are going to cover in this video. Now, the data states are just really a way to explain when the data is active or not. If the data is active, it's doing something. If it is inactive, it's not doing something. Well, pretty simple stuff. But really, we have to account for security when the data active and when it is inactive. And that's the most important thing to understand about this video. Data state are very simple. In use, which is data is actively being used. In transit, data is actively moving or in motion. And at the rest, data is inactive and stored somewhere in the system. Data in use is typically data that's being used in memory or it's being processed in some way. So the computer is using the data to complete a function, to process input, to process output, whatever it might be. This is the point. Data is being actively used by software, by the application, by the code, by the script, whatever it is, and the data is most volatile when it's in use, which means data integrity is at risk at all times with the data in use, because as the data is being processed, if it is changed in the middle of that, it will interrupt the process, could corrupt the computer or could inject information that was not meant to be injected into the process. So it underscores the importance of things like authentication, authorization and accounting to control and monitor access, monitor use and things like that. Data in transit is where the data is actively moving from source to destination. So whoever creating the traffic, the communication, sending the data, whatever it is, that is your source. The destination is whoever receiving that data, that communication and so on. Now, with data in transit or data in motion, it is considered to be at the most risk while it is in transit. Confidentiality, integrity and availability can all be impacted while the data is in transit. The reason this is considered to be the most at risk is once the data leave the source and it is now over the network. Whether it is a wireless or wired network, it can no longer be protected. The protection mechanism that are in place will do its job. Once the data is in transit, you no longer control it. It is at the mercy of the network, the protocols, the routes, all those different values and configuration that we set. The data is at the mercy of those configuration. So that's why it's considered to be the most at risk while in transit. Now data at rest is a little bit different. This is where data is actually stored on device like the media, in the cloud, in archive. It could be system logs. It could be progress report that we are saving. It could be compliance report, compliance documentation, whatever that might be, that gets stored for a long period of time. Now, what's important to know about data at rest is the data that's not in use became a static target while it's stored in storage. While it is stored in the cloud or somewhere, it's static. It's not moving. It's just sitting there waiting to be attacked. So in that regard, it is important to understand these three states for that very reason. Data that is archive is there. Attackers can continuously attack the same target over and over persistently, and that's why sometimes we call it advanced persistent threat, where you are attacking a specific target using different methods to try to gain access to it or gain unauthorized access to it in this case. While data is sitting on the system, whether it is in the storage server right here, if it is sitting here, this could be data in a file share, it could be stored in a database somewhere, it could be saved in somebody's home directory. It could be a lot of different things, but the data that's sitting there is just a static target. So when that data being used, this is the data that's being printed, viewed, or data screen, say from a web server. Maybe somebody pull a website, they are looking at a blog article that's been written or something. That data being used, it is actively being processed in some way. The other way to think about it is transaction. If this web server were to request something from, say, the storage server, maybe data is in archive, and we want to pull it out of the archive to look at it on our SIEM system like Splunk or Alien Vault or something like that. You are going to make the request from this web server over the storage server. You are going to pull that data from the archive. So now you are taking data from rest state, moving it into use state. So now that data can become volatile in that process. If something change here on this web server that alters the data in any way, the integrity been impacted. So now we can't trust the data. Okay, hopefully this is all making sense. So proper authentication, accounting, and authorization will make a difference in this regard. And then data in transit, of course, are things like when it's being sent from one point to another. Let's say we are sending up logs from this infrastructure server, and maybe we are sending it to the web server. So we can look at it on the SIEM system. Okay, that's data in transit. We need to make sure that we are protecting it with encryption, that we are properly routing the data, that we fully understand the network, the source and the destination, all of those different things. And maybe we are doing mutual authentication, where we are installing digital certificates, SSL, TLS certificate on both of this server. So now they authenticate and trust one another. And same with like data at rest, where maybe we are going to do full disencryption. We use the trusted platform module or TPM, things like that, to provide some trust and also some security with the data while it is static target. So as we go through this training, we are going to learn more and more about how to protect data in this various state using different mechanisms, different techniques, and so on. So for now, I just wanted to cover the data state so that you understand them, and then as we are going through the training, you will start to put all the pieces together. So the bottom line for this video is to know the three different states of data. Know the data in use when it is most volatile, know the data in transit when it is most at risk, and know the data at rest creates strategic target.